in charge of the head of standardization, environment and forestry center. And then the second, Dr. Nani Hardiati, Assistant Deputy of Utilization of Maritime Science and Technology, Coordinating Ministry of Maritime. And then the third is Ibu Elim Sritaba, Chief of Sustainability Officer, Asia and Paper. And then fourth is Professor Jatna Supriyatna, Chair of Indonesian Sustainable Development Solution Network. Bapak, you can sit in the middle or beside me. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I think now we will have the perspective from the government policies, and then I will invite Pak Nur Adi Wandoyo first to giving the perspective from the government policies. Pak Adi, the time is yours.
Yes, thank you. So I'm with the Ministry of Environment and Forestry. I'm Director of Standards. And so standards play a very important role in this movement of the plastics and replacement of plastics, as well as the other materials. And so yesterday, that if you were here, we discussed about the one of the agenda on sustainable development, or SDGs, that is sustainable consumption and production. And so in this sustainable consumption production, plastic is number one topic globally. Number two, food system, yeah, number one and number two. So we will discuss in our session the number one and number two subject in the sustainable consumption and production. And so where are we now? You've heard about some countries make the policy to ban single-use plastics. Some countries still use their waste management system by incinerating their waste and producing energy. And some countries still maintain their waste collecting system, no change, but some countries would like to have some phasing out of plastic, and etc. And so people is also looking for innovation, looking for new materials, yeah? And so you've seen this development in the issue of consumption and production and use of plastic responsibly. And so to collect all of these policy and initiatives, we'd like to remind us all that we have discussed this at the policy level in the last United Nations Environment Assembly, the fourth session of the UNEA in Nairobi just early this year. So there were some discussions there. And to name that some resolutions that are of importance to this topic of discussion. There is a resolution on single-use plastics. There is a resolution on marine plastic litter. There is a resolution on improving waste management system. And there is a resolution on advancing our efforts in sustainable consumption and production, including circular economy. Yeah? And so I have prepared these resolutions for distribution, and I gave it to the secretariat, yeah, as a compilation of materials from this Pavilion Indonesia for this session, for you to read all of those. But those are the collective wisdom at this point in time from the policy and from the initiative from the business, and also from research and development. And so one of the issue is, I would like to give you this simple example. Do you know what these are? Right? These are cups, yeah? Okay, how can you see this? Yeah, this is a good example of how we'll deal with this issue. There are two sides of movement. Number one is change the behavior, change lifestyle, change the standard procedure. Yeah? Rationalize the use of this before you use. Okay? So you see many hotels, yeah, having this policy of not providing you with mineral water with the plastic bottles. Yeah, some of the hotels and some of the convention and meetings arrangement. Yeah, so they have this policy of no more to provide single-use plastic, like single-use drinking glass like this. Yeah, okay. So that is one part. Rationalize the use. Yeah? So you get the idea. And number two, if you do still need this, yeah, the issue is whether you use this single use or you can use it multiple use. Yeah? Just like this one. Will you use this once or several times? How many of you today using your cup more than once? Any? Yes? One? Two? Okay. Some use tumbler. Yeah? Okay. Using tumbler is to avoid to use these cups. Yeah? That is good practice. But if you do need this, yeah, it is supposed not to be used single. Yeah? We can use it twice, 3 times, 4 times. But who will keep this after use and put it in their, in their bag? Yeah? People don't do that. Yeah? So still, the problem is in the habit of using this. Yeah? Still in the habit of using this. Now, you see, I give you these 3 examples. Do they look the same? From afar, yes, they look the same. But if you get closer, these 2 have some information on it. Yeah? You see some labels. You see some information on it. Some are of importance to the environment. Yeah? Some says it's compostable. Some says biodegradable. Yeah? Some says some things. Yeah? And so these are of consumer information, yeah, that are provided. That, yes, this is made of materials. This is made of materials that are of environmentally friendly, they suggest, but some do not have these labels at all. Yeah? And do you know what? Even they look the same. My colleagues will tell you that this one do not contain plastic at all. See, surprise, 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 it does not contain plastic at all. But this one may contain some plastic in it. But can you differentiate between those 2? Maybe not. Yeah? If it does not say anything about it. So this is a good example of that. Information is very important, and the choice of this is very important. So it's very important for people to get the information. When you have the opportunity to choose, you have to choose. If there are 3 cups available in front of you, you need to use this. If you have the tumbler, you don't need. Okay? Don't pick any one of these. If you don't have, you need to drink, you must choose one of these, right? Yeah? And so this is very important. The next one is, don't forget, after you drink, which one will go through environmental pathway, yeah? Because if you use plastic, it says it's recyclable plastic, but if there is no infrastructure for recycling for that plastic, that claim of recyclability is of not relevant because you cannot recycle it because a recycling facility is not available in those places. Yeah, so it looks good, but it does not go that way. So how about using paper? Yeah, can we do recycling with this paper cup? Yeah, that Ibu Elim will explain later. That what the industry, the business need to think about, but the government need to think about is how that we deal with that. So that's why you see in Indonesia that in many airports now we provide this drinking water refill facility, yeah, refill facility that facilitates people that use tumbler and use the mixed bottle to reuse it again. Yeah, but we also manage to provide this garbage bin for separation. Yeah, and to treat this material according to the type of material with the right treatment, because we cannot treat the plastic cup and the paper cup mixed up. So this is why the issue of complexity, yeah, in doing this. But we need more advancement in the innovation. We need more information, and we need more infrastructure in place to handle these things together. This is one good example that how that we do it. But we are not waiting for the perfect solution, because maybe perfect solution will not be there. You just heard from the previous session, discussion about palm oil. Can we live in the world without palm oil? No. Yeah? With plastic, can we live the world without plastic at all? Maybe no. Yeah? Can we change all of the cups made of plastic with the paper? Maybe no, maybe yes. Yeah? But we need to look at these options very carefully, which one that we can substitute, yeah, plastic substitute with paper, which one that is not advisable to replace this material with the other material. So this is not one winner takes all world. Yeah, this is not plastic against paper, no, but it's us to be smarter, and we will do it together. So we need more innovations. Yeah, we have some innovation of plastic made of cassava. We have innovation of this paper cup. Ibu Elim will discuss more about this innovation, yeah? And we need improvement in the policy and the system to handle our materials. So that is the agenda. We can move together towards more responsible use of plastics, paper, glass, bottles, etc. Do not need to be afraid, and don't feel very guilty, because we are just about in the start of an era that we will do it, and we will learn together how to consume more responsibly. Yeah? Okay, this is the era. We need to learn and we need to advance. That is my message. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pak Nur Adi. Yeah, because the trend for food and product deliveries is not going to decrease. So now I invite Ibu Ani to present what the government also is more or less about the government policies about the plastic decrease. The time is yours, Bu.
Thank you, Bu Dian. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So this afternoon, I would like to share to you concerning about the issue that Pak Adi already mentions, how we can actually have innovative actions for actually to target to reduce, and to reduce mean to reduce the plastic waste but also to increase the handling of the plastic waste. So this is two target that we would like to reach actually. So this is for the background. If we see here from the data that we use this national data for analysis of the plastic waste actually to see how much the plastic waste leakage to the oceans, because we actually talking about the marine plastic debris that based on the national data base in 2017, we can see all the Indonesia area can be categorized into 4 cluster. So mega, medium, rural, and remote. If we, if we average all together, then we can see here about 10% of the waste generation, they will leakage potentially into the water. So that amount is about like 0.7 million tons. Yeah, this is data from 2017. So from here, if we want to see more detail about the composition of the plastic waste, because now we are talking about the plastic, and especially from food and drink, we need to talk about the single-use plastic and also the multi-layer plastic. So this data is that we saw in this slide is from the hotspot assessment report that have been done by World Bank team. We can see here that the composition of the plastic waste is about 13%. This is from 2018. But from this percentage, if we see more detail in the riverine area, so the waterway, we can see like 16% is contain of the plastic bag, and then another 5% is about the multi-layer, or we can say that plastic packaging. So this produce, a negative impact, as we already understand quite well, to the marine tourism as well as to the ecosystem, coastal ecosystem, also to the biota in the marine, and it may also influence to the human health. So then the government, since our president gave the commitments, actually this is a very strong commitment and ambitious commitment. In 2017, we have been working intensively to produce national plan of actions on the combating marine plastic debris. So we have this presidential decree number 83, 2018, launched in October 2018. Then we have about 59 program under 5 strategy that we can see here. So the programs basically are focusing to achieve the target, how to reduce the plastic waste in the context of the marine plastic debris, about 70% in 2025. So from here, we have already like 1 year since October to this September. We can see this, all the activities have been reported to us, as mean the coordinating ministry for maritime affairs and investment, and also to the Ministry of the Environment and Forestry. So we can see for each strategy, they have been working among stakeholders and try to, not try, but actually implement the national plan of action. That means the program have been written in the national plan of action is actually the commitment from the ministries, and then but that not alone, so they work among the stakeholders. So if we see here, the biggest contribution means more activity we can see in the strategy 1 and strategy 2 and also 4. I think this is very close related with for the strategy 4. It's just like Pak Adi mentioned about the single-use plastic. This is one of an example activities. But we have a number of the activities. If we accumulate all the activities, we can assume that about 10% of the contribution in reducing of the plastic waste to the ocean. Yeah. So this is based on, actually we use the we refer the national baseline data that actually have been complete for the first version, but it will announce, I think Pak Deputy is here, by next week, yeah, by the minister. Regarding the private sector, so we have intensive collaboration with the private sector. This is one of example that we have plastic action partnership in Indonesia. So it's actually, this initiative is under the World Economic Forum and Global Plastic Action Partnership, launching in March this year. But since March, we have many commitments from the private sector. If you see here, the companies are already give the commitment, and if we see for an example, actually more than 15 commitments already they give it to this platform, but we give here some example. Yeah, what kind of the commitment that they give to this platform. So if you see here, the commitment is basically under the NPEP. They are focusing on the 5 strategy, and the private sector, they're more interest to support, because this program is basically to support the national plan of actions, but they are willing to support in 3 important things. So first is about innovations and public awareness, but also of course investment is part of that. In innovation, they have many examples, such like Danone Aqua. They produce now 100% recycled bottles, and also the Nestle, for instance, this is just an example. Now they have a new product using the paper straw, and many others company, they already have a roadmap how they like to support our national plan of action by innovations. But the other side also, we agreed together that public awareness is very important. So they also all support the activities for the public awareness and behavior change. So this still open for additional member or new private sector to join. So we will have another meeting before Davos meeting, or World Economic Forum meeting in Davos. So this is also example that private sector are involving in the context of support the national plan of actions for the implementation of the technology. So there's some example here. I think Pak Adi already mentioned, such like biodegradable plastic, and also beside that, such like plastic tar road. This also quite a big program, not only by the governments, but also supporting by the private sector. Such like some company, they already also make some projects for plastic tar roads in cooperation with the local governments. So this is an example that private sector can join together to work on the national plan of action, especially for the technology interventions. And I think this is quite new that now currently the Ministry of the Environment and Forestry is finalizing the new regulation about the roadmap for the waste reduction by manufacturers. So if, this actually also to support the existing presidential degree for marine litters, but also for the presidential degree for the solid waste management from household. It's very important in this context of the involving of the private sector, because it will directly, directly will work on the private sector for the manufacturer. So they have a target also in line with the national target that they have already announced before to reduce 30% for the from the packaging, because as you see the packaging is also still contributing the waste, and the situation is the packaging waste plastic is still difficult to recycling. So in this context, they would like to increase this number of the recycling. And the circular economy, as we already mentioned before, I think we are supporting this program, and then especially through the partnership, so or we call it PPP, public-private partnership. And we would like also to increase the number of the recycling industry through the increasing of the because now we are working intensively also to improve the solid waste management. Integrated solid waste management include also in the collection and the separation. So we hope that from this program we can also support to increase the activities in the context of the circular economy development. And as a conclusion, I think we can see that Indonesia has taken actions, even though it's still 1 year, but we now working together, and then close relation also with the other stakeholder, not only government, but also private sector and also company, but we need still to increase, the involving from the academic maybe, yes, because of the context of the research and development. If we remember the previous slide, is still very low, so we need to leverage this program. And also for the implementation this program, we need to make more activity or pilot project or program with the synergize with the public-private partnership. So between the community, private, and also the local governments, especially for the circular economy in handling plastic waste, because we need to work in parallel how to handle and how to reduce. So we need to have this balancing in the approach of the, to actually to reduce the mismanaged plastic waste. And then the last, we have already some platform for this kind of the partnership with the private sector. This is such as NPAP and also PRICE and also IP2W. So then we would like to invite other private sectors to involve, because I think we need still we still need more support of also from the private sector in the terms of the raising the public awareness and also the innovation for for the as a solution of this problem. And I would like also to inform you that about the marine litter. Actually, we have a special session on the 10th of December, means on Tuesday. Then we will have more detailed sharing from different stakeholders in here in Pavilion. So we will have more information on Tuesday. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ibu Nani. So now we will hear from the business innovation perspective, and then we invite Ibu Eli. Tiba-tiba lupa. Time is yours, Bu Eli.
Thank you, Budia. Almost forget my name. So today I would like to explain, because of APP is a pulp and paper industry, like I agree with what Pa Adi already explained, that no single solution for plastic issue, but how we can choose the right product for the right solution. So this is about just a glance. Every day Indonesia generates about 175,000 of waste, and about 14% is contained of plastic. And I think 20% of the plastic in Indonesia leakage to the rivers and the coastal. And then studied in 2015 stated that Indonesia is the world's second largest contributor to the plastic pollution. And I think two from our government already explained what kind of, from the government side, policy and then initiative. And like Pa Adi as well mentioned, some of the countries already provide some announcement like a ban plastic usage. 65 countries also verifying degrees of enforcement, and 32 countries imports charge. And then where's plastic go, basically? I think we know that some people said recycle, landfill, incinerated, like what Pa Adi as well explained. But what happened? Other studies said as well, only basically 2% of the plastic recycled into the products with the same function. And another 8% basically downcycled to the something of lower quality. And the cost, basically, the cost of manage the waste could be because there is a discussion in the consumer goods forum when we manage the waste in the last process. Basically, minimum cost is about $200 per ton, and maybe even more. And the culture to having food delivering is increasing in this era. Everybody like to buy food, bringing home, and then what is the packaging we are using right now? So we are now, as a company, as a pulp and paper, we want to contribute as well, come up with a solution. Like what Pa Adi explained, how we choose the cup. Before, I think we using the paper cup is already couple years, and then we maybe don't know that the cup, especially the one that we use for the coffee, is contain plastic inside, the PE coating. And then the problem when we recycle this type of the glass, basically need very complex machine, which is we have to take out the plastic, and then sometimes very high cost. And then become, if there is no recycling system, go to the landfill or even go to the ocean. So some people as well said paper is not a sustainable product. Yes, if the paper using natural forest. But our company already use 100% plantation. We manage with the sustainable way. And then we have a continuous improvement to come out with the innovation product. Sustainable packaging is become important because of it will reduce the ecological footprint of all over the stages in the product's life cycle, of course. It also helps both the producer and the consumer to reduce their environment impact and providing easier effort to handling the waste. This is the comparison between paper, plastic, and then some people say bioplastic. So if we see about the recyclability or the biodegradable, compostable, so we have to see from the renewable or sustainably grown material. From the paper, we consider as a moderate, plastic, of course, in the level poor, and bioplastic coming from the moderate as well. And how about the ability to use recycled content? So this is some of the comparison, and then the energy, resource, and pollution, and from the manufacturing, of course, depend on how the industry will run. And end of life ability or likelihood of being recycled or disposed, of course, paper is the best one between the three. So current paper cup design, before, of course, people only see the linear economy approach, but take all direct food from the packaging, need virgin pulp, same with the paper cup. And then how the virgin pulp tech has been from the forest, will go through the process, make a paper cup, and it will distribute to the end user. And then dispose, 30 to 60 minutes of the uses, the paper cup will be disposed. And then due to its plastic lining, paper cup is very difficult, like I said, and then costly to be recycled. And then only 1% of the paper cup has been recycled because of very difficult to take out the PE coating. They call it PE coating. And then this is our company. We are committed. Not our product is only 100% for the sustainable plantation, and then we manage based on our sustainability roadmap. And then this is the concept that our company being used, using circular bioeconomy. If you see in the, starting from the forest, we also implement integrated forestry and farming system to make sure that community also includes in the process, and then how also the supply chain protect the forest, and then when entering our industry, we make sure that from the pulp paper making up to the product, up to our customer, we make sure that all the process through the circular bioeconomy to minimize waste, and then our target by 2030, zero landfill in the process. So this is one of the sample that APP has our environment commitment, that we provide a solution at least for the food packaging. Like, I come here is not for 100% solution, but as an Indonesian company, we bring a solution for packaging, especially for the food, which is right now the culture or the behavior using food packaging is very high. So we come out with the renewable raw material recycling without barrier, like I said, without PE coating, and compostable within 12 weeks. So I can say this product renewable, recyclable, and of course compostable. So the conclusion, and also our products is already certified with the series of the process, and we also certified our forests through mandatory certification from the government and voluntary using PFC. The conclusion is you better pay a little bit higher in front for me, because of some of the brand, they don't want to change from the plastic become paper, even already have a solution, because of course will be more expensive compared with the plastic. But for me, you better pay little bit more in front rather than fund or the end of the process. Like I said, minimum $200 to manage the waste in the back. And then of course it's not easy. And then to manage the waste is not about cost, but the complexity to stop the leakage of to the ocean. Especially, we have a target to reduce from our president to reduce 70% by 2025. So this is, and of course, will impact to our health. I think that's it. And as a company from Indonesia, we already have a solution, and also we working right now with Nestle, like Bu Nani said. Even we are not in the working group, but as a part of our customer, we working with the Nestle to find innovative product to find a replacement for some of the food packaging. Because of agree is not 100% can be replaced from the plastic to paper, because of some of the food can be also contaminate. So they need plastic, but maybe we can find other plastic can be more friendly with the environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Bu Elim. Yeah, now we will have the presentation by Professor Jatna to see how impact to the biodiversity. Professor, the time is yours.
Very good afternoon, late afternoon basically, it's almost. This is the most difficult, usually in the end of the presentation. But let me tell you that when I was invited by Ibu Elim to talk about the plastic, well, I'm a biodiversity specialist, so how do we know about the plastic? So Pak Sapri and Andreas know better, Bu Nani. But let me check and how do we get this to when I have my student who's doing this research on the plastics and impact to the biodiversity and finally to the climate change. So it will be a problem, impacts and conclusion. I think the problem is already addressed by Ibu Nani and Bu Elim and also Pak Adi. But of course, you know, it's always, this is the microplastic or microplastic, it's depend on how the definition. But this is our daily. The plastic consists of course, many forms, drinkings, and then plus microplastic also consists of many different chemicals, and also the application of these plastics. So I will not be too much on this discussion. But of course, you know, this is really cities, and I'm referring to the Jambek's publication and science journal. So when everybody's referring to, and of course, already mentioned about this, how many Indonesian produce by the two previous speakers, and then also what that's really been doing in this kind of things. So, of course, as a biologist, and I'm doing this and look at this, what that really means with the microplastics, because sometimes it just not be seen by our eyes, but if you are using microscopes, of course, under 0.5 centimeter, it's very difficult, especially. But this is really how that go through these contaminants, tropic, and then up to this many different disease on the plastics. And how does plastic decompose? I think this is already, it's 500 years, so that's why they accumulated the plastics. And also it was explained, but of course this, before it's already mentioned, we are producing a lot of plastics because, of course, because we are bigger. We have 260 million people, so that's why we are bigger. But this is the book that currently has been the state of the art of the impact of plastic on biodiversities. So this book was basically, it's a very thick compare how that plastic influence to biodiversities. Especially this is I'm really interested in how that especially anchovy and many other small fish. Why is it? Because I love small fish. When I skied, of course, anchovy is my daily routine. It's because of cheap too for us. So the most important, of course, this plastic is mistakenly as their food. So if you see that, just like a jellyfish, that's why the turtle, especially, they chasing the plastic because they're just like a jellyfish. That's why the danger is that this plastic is really not only already broken into the micro, but also even macro like this, they're still chasing by the animals. But the other one is also because of the entanglements. You know, there's so many fish and other animals die up because of the plastics. So how that really impact to the climate change, drive more microplastics? Because of this, of course, global warming, that's warming the ocean, and reduced salt concentration. They also, microplastic rapidly sinks and heap in the seabeds, and then evaporate with the waters, and then microplastic raise into surfaces, and that's really in the food chains, and that's really the how that really related to climate change and biodiversity and others. But of course, that how much is this plastic? It's depend on the source. Yes, that really. But how that emission coming from is the coastal, but also from the burn, you know, burning, because some of you already mentioned Ibu Nani, how much that the plastic also part of the piles that was burned, and that's also how that related the container ships. Similarly, you know, if you look at that, because usually the sustainability is always using what we call a life cycle assessment. So here is the life cycle assessment of this plastic waste. And usually is comparing that worst scenario, compare the sequestered scenario, and then compare to recycle bags, degradable, and so on. So life cycle assessment basically is from cradle to the grave. So that to really understand how that the plastic from starting the sources up to how that really becoming the impact to many others, including the pollution. This is really how many years, 500 years, and then, you know, many other things that has been doing this. But of course, you know, this is really the impact, you know. Of course, as I mentioned about this, not only the animals on the ocean, but also the terrestrial animals. So you can see that, of course, the seabird most is impacted. Also marine mammals, fish, of course the sea turtles is also impacted of these microplastics. But as you may know that the gyre, the gyre is the term for the accumulation of, because of the current on the ocean. So if you see the gyres, the gyre in between, the biggest one gyre is between California and Japan. There's a 100 and maybe almost 1,000-kilometer gyre. It's a thick, and all is accumulated between the two areas because of the ocean current. So it's several gyres here in between the South Americas, also between the Africas. And this is really the important, we have to understand how that the gyre it's accumulated the plastic from many China, Indonesia, up to the gyres. I think this is the most difficult one because they are becoming microplastic and then they release from the gyres. And what is the impact toward the wildlife? There are so many studies currently. This is the sea turtles. Some of these 86%. Of course, these several sea lions, birds. Some of them is already studies, and of course, there's in the compass. Recently, Pa Sapri also has that one. How that really the whales that dead in Wakatobi National Park in Indonesia, it's full of plastics. There's so many. I think the dead. So it's not because of last time in US there's so many people, but the sonar, the ship hit this, but it's not. It's just really plastic. So this is really. So if you see that, what the problem is plastic. Rope and netting is 25%, fragment, packaging, and many other things. So that is really. So this is the species, usually whales, loggerhead turtles, green turtle, northern fur seals, California sea lions, including the birds that is always seen. So that's really mostly the range have been studies in many other countries. So my students doing this now is trying to understand what that's really in Indonesia. So, for example, we study microplastic concentration in one of the mussel, in the fat of the it's horn snails. So you can see that fibers, phylums, and fragment is still there. So even the horn snail, you can get that microplastics. And here is also anchovy. A lot of Indonesians like it anchovy because it's very small and it's very cheap. So we were really very important. Also, anchovy is eaten by big predators. So they accumulate it, and that's why really we want to understand how that's really anchovy also get this one through this. So again, just echoing Ibu Elim, that it's very important has the solution. How that really, of course, the academician usually just doing research, but of course they really need somebody out who's doing, and how that really circular economy can help. Of course, have the Bu Elim already mentioned about this, the product, and then I don't want to repeat it again, but this is really how the circular economy becoming instead of other economy. This is a new term. But of course, there's so many initiatives from the companies. I think this is really good that they so many, even in our Congress now, they have a lot of things that gadget it's for food without plastic. So I think this is really very good. How do we reduce it? But how do we get the science can do? That's really important. 5 years ago, we found that the bacteria, for example, eat the peat now. So how did they convert the peat into the fertilizer? So the My Center now they already. So My Center now trying to concentrate. How do you get the bacteria to eat this? Of course, is if you are 100% plastic, that's somewhat difficult. But if you maybe part of those, maybe it's reduce that. But also there's so many other things. Plastic eating bacteria is also the most one that the university now is trying to get this up to this one. So I think that's really my presentation with my student. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Prof. Chatna. Ladies and gentlemen, regarding the time, I just only giving you the floor only for 2 person who has the question. Yes, Ibu. And then the other one from right side. Okay, Ibu, please.
Yeah, thank you, Bu Dia. My question for Ibu Elim Sitaba. I appreciated the innovation about biodegradable product and how you can bring this product go to the global market as a solution. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ibu. There is
Yeah, thank you, Bu, for the question. I think, APP market is already in the global, and then how to bring this biodegradable product to encourage all the brands to use it. We just discussed with Bu Nani. I think is a good because of the member of the working group that already talking about the solution. Is something that we can encourage to replace some of their product to use the biodegradable paper, which is a one of the solution. And of course, to go to the global, we also need support from the government. So this is something that collaboration is needed to support the private sector to bring Indonesia product to the global. Not only as a certified product, of course there is some certification is needed in the global, but the endorsement or for the private sector that paper in Indonesia is not deforesting forests, but also managed with the sustainable way.
Thank you, Bu Elmi. Pak Nur and Ibu Nani, do you have the final statement on this issue?
Yes, thank you. So this is where the responsible consumption and the calculation of carbon footprint really need our attention, yeah? Because you see that this plastic bag, according to the life cycle assessment, has the less burden to the environment and the carbon footprint, yeah? Well, we have this multiple use bags, yeah, have higher carbon footprint, but so that's why we must use it many times, thousands of times to compensate in that. And so this is where the policy need to do some exercise, and also that's why we need more innovations, yeah, from the business. Now that the policy option is not that many, it's very limited. But we also need to work with our population. We need to work with the people to educate on how that we use it responsibly. Yeah? Because people cannot always remember how much of the carbon footprint of this one, how much the carbon footprint of that one. But we need to have a practical way of teaching people how to consume it responsibly while research still going and policy development and innovation is going. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Nuradi. Ibu Nani?
Yeah, we also have discussed about the because the situation to implement the biodegradable product is the price is still very expensive. But now we really need innovations also to in the context of to reduce the cost. And then we talk about this, and then one of the solutions through the research and development need also to find such like hybrid material. So it's not only from the single, yeah, and also the material can be used such from the waste from the plants. Yeah, so this is, I think, this is a big opportunity for this, Ibu.
Thank you, Bu Nani. Pak Yatna, do you have the final?
Thank you. I think the academician has to look at how that really mixing these materials, because plastic is always good I mean, for many things. But unfortunately, you know, it's always dumping into, you know, it's like DLC life cycle assessment is always is very high for our footprint, because when we develop this plastic, especially it's one that we use and then throw it out, is really, really, that making the carbon footprint is really high.
Yeah.
That's why we have to do it. But I think the biodegradable, I really believe there's so many material in Indonesia, especially from the biodiversity and the plants and many other things, that we can, you know, trying to get this material even harder than, of course, cannot be mimicking the plastic, but I think they can also minimally that can be used as tough as plastic. I think that's really my message.
Thank you, Prof. Yeah, I don't want to make the conclusion, but I note that this is for handling the plastics waste is no single solution. And then we need the partnership in action. So, ladies and gentlemen, applause for the all speakers. Thank you, and then I am back to the MC.
Thank you very much for Ms. Dia for moderating the session, and also the distinguished speakers. Before we're ending this session, I would like to invite Ms. Winarni to help us to give a token of appreciation from the Minister of Environment and Forestry. Ms. Winarni, the senior advisor to the Minister, please give it up. Please give a round of applause for all the speakers. And also take a photo session first before leaving the stage. Thank you very much, and that concludes for our last session of private innovation in curbing plastic waste for food and drinks. And thank you very much for being here with us in Indonesia Pavilion. This is our last session, so we're ending it here. But tomorrow, I would like to announce that we don't have any session. You can check our session for next week, start from Monday. It will be at our website of indonesiaunfccc.com. So if you want to know the detail of agenda and also for the material of presentation that already been presented here, you can also check it in the website of indonesiaunfccc.com.